Okay, I'll call the meeting to order now, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So first thing on the agenda tonight and for the foreseeable future is we're going to have a special public comment for anyone who wants to talk about how they've been impacted by the fires. That is of interest to the board. And so far I just have one blue card, and if there's anybody else, now's the time to turn that in. We'll start with Mr. Cortopassi.
Hi, John Cortopassi, Center as a high school. I just wanted to thank the school board and the district officials for the way that you've acted and the leadership that you have shown these last 3 weeks in regards to the fire. It's given people quite a bit of peace of mind. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Okay, so we will move on. We had no actions in closed session that need to be reported out. So we'll go to C5, statements of abstention. Seeing none, adjustments to the agenda. We do have 2 adjustments to the agenda.
Do, President Close, we need to move to a future meeting item regarding football and the item regarding international change.
Okay, so we're going to pull and postpone the F2 and F4 items. Anything else? Yes. Okay, board member request for information. C8, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held October 11, 2017.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Anderson. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Abstain.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Okay, C9, approval of minutes of special board meeting held October 16, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please. I'm sorry, can you call that? Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong.
Thank you. Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Abstain.
And C10, approval of the minutes of special board meeting held October 18, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Abstain.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Abstain.
Okay, so this brings us to C11, public comment on non-agenda items. I don't have any blue cards for this, or is there anybody here to speak about non-agenda items tonight? There's one. Okay, so this is the opportunity for the public to speak about items not on the agenda, and just a reminder that if your comment is something regarding a staff member, that you refrain from making that comment here, but instead refer your comments to the Assistant Superintendent of HR, Mr. Lee. Elizabeth Birch.
Okay. Yes, hi. I'm Elizabeth Birch, and I just want to say thank you to the board and everybody in the city for all the amazing things that were done to save everyone. So I'm writing basically just to say my daughter attends 7th grade at Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts, and by Friday she'll have missed 3 weeks of school. So I'm here to urge the board to instruct the district and/or the state superintendent that they are required and morally obligated to make up the hours of lost instruction time caused by the recent state of emergency. This means they must extend the school year into June. I believe the state of California requires 54,000 instructional minutes, or 900 hours, 6-hour day, 150 hours of instruction time. I don't know how many hours we usually have. It may be more, but we have lost 1/10 of the 5,400 minutes. If my math is good, it better be up here. Given this unprecedented disaster, it's understandable that the schools have had to close, of course, to do the cleaning. However, I'm not sure if the other schools that have opened up have done all the cleaning. So it makes the public a little suspicious about the whole thing, but we'll have to just trust that it's all done to help the kids. I'm wondering, though, how can the state deny the city's children the number of instructional minutes and more that they would normally get as required by law? By not extending the school year by even just a week, though 2 would be better, the city is actually re-victimizing the parents and especially the innocent children who have already lost everything they own. The U.S., as you probably know, is quite low on the list of developed nations in education, and we just can't afford to lose one more second. I assume the rationale for not extending the school year is probably a lack of funding, and if that's the case, doesn't the district have the right to receive compensation from the governor once a state of emergency is declared? Has the district requested this? And if they have not, I ask that they please do so immediately. Last, I will just say, under the law, it's a crime for parents to keep their children from attending school. In kind, by law, the state must provide equal access to education for all children, regardless of how disadvantaged those children are by losing their homes or maybe some of their families' lives in the fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other blue cards, we'll move to C12, the public hearing regarding trustee area election system post-map. So I'm going to convene the public hearing. We will now convene a hearing to receive public testimony concerning the composition of potential trustee voting areas associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. Pursuant to California Elections Code, Section 10010, the board is required to have 2 public hearings to seek community input before preparing and presenting draft maps of the proposed boundaries of the district. As part of this public hearing, we'll have a brief presentation by our legal counsel assisting the district with this matter. No presentation today? Okay. So nobody is here to appear at this public hearing or wants to speak at this public hearing? Okay. Then I will close the public hearing. Okay, reports, Santa Rosa Teachers Association. Mr. Will Lyon, are you here? You guys have a report? Well, that's, okay.
That's the first time it's ever happened.
I know. Okay. Well, if you think of something to say while we're still in the report, then holler and we'll have you down. All right, CSEA. Is Tammy here? Tammy is here.
And I think I'll go ahead and I'll follow suit with Will, and
Let's turn that on for you.
happens every time. I will follow suit with Will, and we have no report tonight either. Thank you.
Well, it's nice to see you. D3, the superintendent report.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, President Close, members of the board. Let me put this back on. As many of you know, today we began the process of reopening our schools, and it happened in 2 phases. 13 schools will open for students on Friday, and the remaining 11 will open on Monday. Teachers and staff actually have came together today for the first phase schools. We asked them to return 2 days before so that they could meet with each other with counselors that we've provided, and so that they can have time to adjust their lessons accordingly and prepare their classrooms. Because the governor's emergency declaration, our school calendar will remain the same. We will not have to make up these missed days. I want to stress a few points as we begin to move forward. Any information we have is, please take a look at our website. There are a number of resources and information about the reopening of schools. I do want to touch upon the fact that we worked together with our insurance carriers to ensure that we were opening schools in a safe manner. These fires are much different than a fire where there is a forest or brush. These are fires that have homes and buildings that were burned, and the ash and soot contain toxins. All of our schools had some fire-related impact. To remediate that impact, we had over 200 professionals cleaning schools around the clock for the last 7 days. This includes 24 school sites, 2 million square feet of space, and we changed 3,000 air conditioning filters. What we want our students and families to know that when you return to school and if you are displaced, please do not be concerned about school meals. You will be able to have your school meals, no questions asked, for the remainder of the year. We want to thank everybody in the community, and particularly our first responders. They literally saved our schools, our homes, and lives. Sorry. Our staff, our students, our teachers, our office support staff, our principals, everyone at the schools now become the second responders. And Santa Rosa City Schools wanted to be sure that our staff had enough time to process and be able to welcome our students back on Friday and Monday. Our community, our children, our staff have faced a tragic event, and now our goal is to help all children and staff return to stability and familiarity. I know we're going to do this together. I know we're going to do this together. Santa Rosa City Schools together. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Lyon, I saw you come in. Would you like to give a report?
A short one. Good evening, members of the board. I understand that I have a 1-hour detention coming to me for being late, and I accept that. Apologize for being late. I have a couple things to say that I think are really important. First, I want to thank the administration in the district office and the site administrators and the school board. It's from my perspective, working closely with them the last couple of weeks, I'm blown away by how, it is overwhelming to see how hard everybody's working. And every single time we've come to one of those little crossroads, are they going to make decision A or B? Every single one of them that I've seen has been heartfelt and has been kind and has been the most loving choice they can make in any given situation. And I'm really grateful for that. I want to thank you. In terms of a quick report, quickly coming back without a lot of details, but what I'm hearing from the teachers who did come to school today, they needed today. Like that 2-day, I don't know what to call it, it's almost like a grace period for us to get, to do the work that we have to do to be ready to welcome our kids back in. Those are really important days. A lot of crying, we can't heal enough in 2 days to really get it right, but I can't imagine what it would look like if we didn't. And that's just an example of thousands of choices that I've seen made that most people don't get to see. So that's an example of how you didn't have to, there's no rule that says you automatically get 2 days or something like that, and we're really grateful for it. On the teacher side, we're going to be superheroes. I think we're going to do really, really well from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock. We're going to come up and we're going to create these loving classrooms where the kids feel normal. And then we're humans again. And we've got to water the plants and feed the dog and all that business. So I'm convinced from what I've seen the last 3 weeks that we're going to step up and do it. We're going to need all that support that we're getting from you as we move on and from the community. The biggest worry that I have that's for our teachers is that we have 22 of them that are still displaced, that don't have permanent housing. I'm really grateful that Santa Rosa City Schools is leading and helping us. We're working together to try to find those houses, but I wanted to mention it publicly that if there are things available, I know that there are some people who are giving up their B&B and they're going to rent it out to a family. I've heard of families who have a second home that just like to have a second home because Sonoma's a nice place to hang out on your vacation, giving that up. Those things are all really important right now, and the people who are doing those things really appreciate it. Speaking of appreciation, we had like 900 backpacks donated. We've given 700 of them back out. We've done, it's worth mentioning Hidden Valley Elementary Schools put together pretty much a full-blown like Goodwill, and they're pumping it out, still working on giving all that stuff out. We're really proud of all that stuff that's been happening. And we're grateful, me personally and on behalf of SRTA, we're grateful that we're collaborating and working together. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of plates spinning. And I've seen this week specifically us bringing together, sharing information, and doing the work that it takes to heal. So our #1 goal going forward, despite what happens politically or socioeconomically or otherwise, our teachers' #1 goal in the weeks and months to come is to help heal our community. And we're going to try to heal ourselves first, and then we're going to focus in on those kids, and then we're going to work on our community. And I'm already proud of the work the teachers are going to do. So thanks for helping us do that. Good night.
I just wanted to make an announcement that we have generous donations of backpacks. We got a delivery from Costco today, so we actually brought, I think, 50 backpacks today, but we have more. So they're up there. If there is a family in need or a child in need, please go ahead and take one.
Okay, my report. We did a press availability, which is different from a press conference, I've learned. That was set up by Beth, our communications director. So that we could talk to the press about opening, explain the process that we went through. That was it was a very specific and detailed and careful process to make sure that our schools were safe and for students and teachers to enter. It was a huge process, as the superintendent mentioned, because we don't have all elementary schools. We have high schools, which are huge facilities, and we've got many of them. So it was a big process. We got to explain that, and I gave, on behalf of the board and the whole staff, I gave our thanks, of course, to the first responders who really did, an amazing job, and who really are, heroes to us all. And then the superintendent also spoke with the press about the importance of allowing our students and staff the space they need to come back to school and heal and try to get back in some kind of normal rhythm without the interference from the press, who's real curious about how this is going. And so I'm going to say that publicly as possible. Obviously, anyone who wants to talk to the press can, but you don't have to. You don't have to, and you should feel safe and secure and protected at school, and we want you to. I want to commend the superintendent and her team for getting schools open as fast as I think was humanly possible, and also for in that process, making sure that there was enough time for the teachers and staff to come back and have that buffer or grace period and prepare for the students coming back. From the moment, the superintendent got a call at 1 in the morning or whatever, to the present, this team has been working around the clock to get these sites open and to make sure that we're protected going forward. And if there was ever an example of the, build the plane while flying it, this was it. I'm pretty sure they don't teach this when you're getting your admin credential. So everyone's doing the best we can, and even though it's not going to be perfect, I think so far we're getting close to it. So I really want to commend you for the hard work and the really thoughtful work. This, whether it's one person or 20 people or whatever, just for the going forward for a while, we're going to keep doing this public comment for anyone who wants to say something about how they've been impacted by the fires, because this is all new to all of us. This is a really big deal, and we want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. So, anybody who wants to come in will always have a little bit of something to eat. So that is, one more thing. He's not here, so I was going to talk about Bill Carl's Careers of Distinction Award, but he's not here, so I'm going to talk about that next time. All right, board member reports. Mr. Sheffield?
Actually, I wanted to maybe speak a little bit on a lighter note and share just a very brief story. Last weekend, I took my family out to a pumpkin patch, and we wanted to sort of, clean the air in the way that we could. And we saw so many families out there, and my 5-year-old son had recognized a friend of his that he went to preschool with, and had just learned that she lost her house in the fires. And they sort of sized each other up, and he gave her a hug, and she put out her hand, and he grabbed her hand, and he did not let go of her hand for 2 hours. And her family that was there was her aunt and uncle, and they shared with us that this is exactly what she needed. We know that we have an amazing community, and we know as the schools are going to be opening up that we have amazing teachers and amazing staff and amazing families. We also have amazing students. And when we see this Friday and next week, we just need to appreciate the fact that our students, the little ones, the big ones, they're all part of the healing process.
Thank you. Director Anderson.
Well said. Well, I'm going to step back before that eventful that eventful week. And I did the unconscious bias training with the district, and it was very valuable. I was really impressed by the whole 2-day training, and I look forward to the next step in that process for myself. I also went to the pasta queue for Hidden Valley Elementary School, which is a typical, every year they do a pasta queue the first Friday that they get back in school. So it's a long-standing tradition. And it was wonderful to have that opportunity for all the families to get together and for the kids to see each other. There was a lot of hugging and hand-holding there as well, including among the adults. And I want to thank the district office personnel, the administrators, just the teachers, and the parent-faculty organization at Hidden Valley, who worked so hard to make it happen for those students and families, and it definitely was for the parents as well. And we had 3 past principals attend, which made it sort of feel like an august occasion, as well as having our superintendent serving food. That made it all seem very important. And I talked to some families who had actually not attended previous pasta queues, but came to this one because the kids really wanted to see each other. So it was all in all just a fantastic event. And we're going to do something similar, or they are going to do something similar tomorrow at Maria Carrillo High School. There's the first sporting event for the campus is a volleyball game tomorrow night, and it's the senior night, so the senior players get their awards. And it's a fundraiser for breast cancer awareness. And anyway, there's some special stuff going on around that, including starting a couple of hours before the game, there's going to be a welcoming event for all families. It's going to include food and some information about fire relief and that sort of thing. So it would be great to fill that gym and have a really great volleyball game to kick off our return to school, which we're all looking forward to on Friday.
Thank you.
I just have to say that even though school has been out, as you move around the district and run into people, it's amazing how sensitive and kind people are. A little more sensitive than before, a lot more kind than they typically have been. And I just want to acknowledge that there's something has changed in our community. And from that fateful Sunday night to Monday morning, we had a number of people move into our home looking for shelter, as I'm sure just about everybody here has had a similar experience. That Monday morning, it came time for breakfast, and I had to get something going, cooked up, and Ann's busy trying to get something ready, and so she sent me off to get some oatmeal. So I made it to the supermarket, and as you often do, you buy things, you put them on that conveyor belt, but you always look at the person behind you to see what they're buying. You know, because that's always curious. What are they buying? And this wonderful person right behind me, she says, well, I look and I see a box of Kleenex and 2 bottles of champagne. And I said, and I looked at it, and I looked at her, and she looked at me and said, well, the Kleenex are for my tears, and the champagne is for the fact that we made it out to life. You have to kind of weigh it all out in your mind. How lucky we are, no matter what's happened. We're lucky.
Thank you, Director Pugh. Director Fong.
So many people have responded in so many ways. I just want to take a minute to just give a shout out to Hidden Valley teacher Paul Drake, who organized the whole Hidden Valley Goodwill store. Kind of, you walk in the door and it's wow. It's at the old Stan Roy, so it's been donated thanks to that landlord owner, and it's really open to everyone. It is open to everyone, not just Hidden Valley, but the PFO there, under the leadership of our teacher Paul Drake, who's been there nonstop, really to be commended.
Thank you, Director Kristoff.
I want to share kind of the summary of, I would say, maybe 150 conversations I've had in the last week with a lot of community members at my health club, at a couple of different organizations I belong to, in the supermarket, emails, phone calls, saying how impressed the community is with our school system and how important schools are. I think a lot of people reflected on how do you rebuild a community. And you start with the real community that you live in, the school that you go to, the people you live around. And I know that people who haven't thought about teachers or administrators or our classified staff in a long time have said to me, make sure that you wish the people you work with well. You've got a huge task in front of you. You are the second responders, but in a sense, you're going to be the first responders for a long time here. And for me as a board member, please stay in touch with us. You know, what is it you need to do? We have no specific pat answer. We don't have a plan laid out. We are going to be creating this as we move along. And I think I'm here saying that me personally and the people I've talked to want to know what they can do to support us, you know, in schools, in bringing our students back and doing what we're supposed to do, and that is educate our students. So please keep that line of communication open. This is for the public as well. I want to know what we can do to make sure that we do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Luke?
I would just like to thank all the people who have been working to get the students back to school, the teachers, the administrators, the cleanup crews, and the list goes on and on. So I'd just like to thank all the hardworking team that's trying to get us back into school, and that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Frank, do you have additional CSBA, NSBA? Not tonight. Ron?
Just one quick thing. The road show, or the idea of getting the Region 3 delegates together, has been postponed. I've got also from colleagues in the Region 3 a lot of, heartfelt, wishes for us here, but a lot of our friends in Napa County and elsewhere have been affected too. And that's the gathering is tentatively now March 5th, and I just want to make sure that the board members are clear on this. This is a way, you get through the Masters of Governance program, there's ways you can learn to do more on a board, and, you learn more about your job as you're going along. But for me, when you go to the conventions, the most important thing is meeting new people and understanding, getting different perspectives on what's going on in the field of, boardsmanship and education. And so I would encourage us, I'll talk more about this as we go along, but when we get to this point, it's a way to meet people and just expand your world in terms of what you know about being a board member. So I think it's really an exciting idea, and I'm going to keep promoting it, but it's now March 5th. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the consent agenda, the E items.
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, and that brings us to our F items. We'll start with F1, approval of resolution recognizing November 2017 as National Native American Heritage Month.
So, members of the board, I'm going to turn this over to Assistant Superintendent Mazzara, who will be presenting this resolution.
Thank you, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and directors. We'd like to obviously bring forward the resolution as recognizing Native American Heritage Month, and to do that, I'd like a little background for somebody who works in that program daily. I'll be introducing Elizabeth Billy. Elizabeth works in our state and federal program, and she's our liaison that works with this population every day. And I'll allow her a brief description of what she does and the types of services we provide.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth, and currently we service about 165 Native or American Indian or Native Alaskan students, but that number is continually growing as we are identifying, and that's been an issue. But currently we're servicing 165, and our goal is to increase academic achievement, and how that looks on a daily basis, a weekly basis for me is using services as tutoring, counseling, there's a mentor and accountability partner program. I also have a credit recovery program we set up with another tribe. We have high school Native clubs on campuses. Started a cultural awareness club at Ridgeway High. Also, we have a parent-student committee, and we meet monthly. And quarterly, we're doing family events, which we are incorporating culture. And then as far as services that I myself am giving to the students is I'm helping parent involvement, bridging the gap between families and the district through attending IEPs, SARBs, parent meetings, just helping them to understand the processes, even home visits, which I've been doing a lot of.
Thank you very much. Well, nice. We'd like to entertain a motion.
So move.
Second. Moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong? Aye. Sorry. Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student Board Member?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you for coming to talk to us. Okay, so we pulled F2, which brings us to F3, discussion item on local control accountability plan, local indicator, and dashboard updates.
Good evening.
President Close, Superintendent Kittimore, members of the board. Tonight you'll be receiving an update on the Local Control Accountability Plan and Dashboard update. I'm just going to get the PowerPoint up. I'm joined by Coordinator Crank from State and Federal Programs and also Assistant Superintendent Steve Mazzara. And with that, I turn it over to Coordinator Crank.
Good evening, Board of Directors, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, thank you. So tonight I'm just giving you an overview of the LCAP update. I'll be talking about the timeline, the local rubric, and our stakeholder engagement. So we're switching it up a little bit. We're going to have our normal DAC meetings are going to now be desserts with Diane at DAC. And I think that's really cute. District Advisory Committee is what DAC is. And instead of just having 1 or 2 meetings and trying to get as many people as we can to that, she's going to have monthly meetings. These will occur at noon for those who can attend during the day, and then the next month they will occur at 6 p.m. for those who might work. Childcare and translators will be there as well. And this is just an opportunity for her to meet with as many stakeholders as possible during that time. We will also have 3 consultations, November, January, and April, with our Labor Management Collaborative, SRTA, and CSCA as well. And then, so that's through the district, and then on a site level, they will continue to have meetings, just as they did last year with the principals' interim reports. The school site council, they will receive presentations and update on our LCAP as well, and then staff meetings. And you have specific calendar dates on the attachment with the calendar. It'll list all of them for you. So this is the timeline from the CDE, and essentially early November, like right now, the private preview of our dashboard. And I'll refresh your memory about what the dashboard is again. It's been a while. Last time I spoke about it was April. But the dashboard will be updated. And so right now it's just a private preview for the district to look at. And then we update our indicators. And then on November 8th and 9th, the State Board of Education will be meeting to look at how are we going to measure our academic and chronic absenteeism indicators. There's still some debate as to how we will show that, and that's up to the state to decide. And then during the week of November 27th, this is when the public will be able to view the dashboard. And so what we need to update as local indicators on the dashboard, everything else is pre-populated by the state with our SBAC scores, et cetera. And I'll show you an example coming up. But on a local level, we have to update these local indicators. And so the definition is of those local indicators are what we measure on our progress through the dashboard, and this is our locally collected data. So, and the reason why we do this is really because, again, the state wants that local control. So we update this with our local measures, we look at the data, and we implement it. And then measuring progress, we collect and report that performance data, and those are our local indicators. So we're updating those now, and then those will be available to the public soon. So what are those performance standards on those local indicators? There's also in your packet an attachment that has the California School Dashboard local indicators as delineated, but in essence, the basics are one measurement, and that's our teachers, our instructional materials, and our facilities. And that's pretty much done by our, Williams settlement requirements at 100% at all of our sites. The implementation of academic standards, and this shows that how are we meeting our academic standards, and that's also looked at locally. And then our parent engagement, we're also ahead of this as well, because one of the ways that you can show parent engagement is to do a survey with one grade level, and of course we do it with everybody. We survey K through 12, students, staff, stakeholders, everybody. So we're pretty deep into that. And then just our local climate survey, and that's our healthy survey done every 2 years. We then, of course, report the results here, and then we upload it publicly to the dashboard, and then it's available to everyone. So this is, again, the dashboard, and these are our grids. And the way we use them is when we're doing our LCAP, we look specifically at the dashboard for where have we progressed, where are we improving, and then our greatest needs, like where are we in the red or the orange or the yellow, right? And then our performance gaps. Where do we need to focus our attention? And that's done with our annual update, and these are all sections of the LCAP. So this shows you how we directly look at the dashboard that influences our LCAP and how we write it and how we move forward. We will be using Thought Exchange again, and this LCAP survey will continue. Improvements from last year is that we will provide more opportunities for survey outreach. We will have an auto dialer, an email, flyers at drop off and pick up to encourage families to participate, and Chromebooks at events that are available to families that might not have them at home, and our hope is to reach more parents exponentially. In March, these results will be aggregated and the website charts updated. And then if you recall, last year there was grids and graphs, and so those will all be updated with the newest information. Continuous improvement, again, our State Board of Education really has embraced this continuous improvement model. It's not an I gotcha, you didn't meet it. It's really how can we grow and change based on these results. SCO has been incredibly helpful. They have forums to help us with this transition as we really try to understand and wrap our heads around exactly what we're using this for and our progress. And then next year, they're adding Priority 7 to the dashboard, which Santa Rosa City Schools is already ahead of that. Essentially, it's who are our students that are accessing all of our course levels, and we're tracking that with, who is in our AP classes and make sure all of our subgroups have access. And again, just to review this continuous improvement goal, it's a plan, a do, and a study, and an act course with the LCAP because it's continuous improvement. So for instance, here's one example. LCAP Goal 1 was to graduate college and career-ready students. So one of the things that was done last year in our LCAP was our 10,000 degree staff worked closely with the administrators, the college and the career center, focused a campaign on increasing financial aid and providing that support to students. And as a result of that, we studied what happened, and there was a 19% increase in the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act. Therefore, when we studied that and we looked at that, it was realized that this should continue, and the LCAP should fund that for college and career centers for the next year. Another example is from Goal 2, to ensure that all foster youth, English learners, and low-income students have individual learning plans to support school connectedness and academic achievement. So what was done last year was to hire LCAP Seoul, serving our language learners, counselors, and they focused their efforts on 400 students with EL monitoring, educational proficiency course placement, credit recovery, and academic counseling. And through what they did, we then studied it, and we saw that they helped to reclassify 595 ELL students. So this was definitely good, and it was an increase. So then the action for this year based on that, in our LCAP, we wrote that we wanted to continue to fund the Seoul counselors, and then we actually had them include foster and homeless youth now, based on that data.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'd just like to conclude with this quote from Tom Turlickson, our State Superintendent of Public Instruction. He says, to sustain our progress in changing mindsets, we must ensure that parents, students, and educators at every school and district are well informed on our multiple measures data system, their role in the LCAP cycle, and the resources available to address disparities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll bring it back to the board for questions, comments. Anyone? Okay. Well, thank you for that very good report. We're having an internet issue, and all of our iPads run only on Wi-Fi. So if you could bear with us for just a second. Okay, so it's F5 and it's the public hearing on the pivot charter. I had to make sure that I didn't have, sometimes the hearings have, magic word speeches that I'm supposed to give associated with the hearings, and this one doesn't, so I had to confirm that. So this public hearing, we're gonna give 20 minutes for the public hearing portion of it. I have 11 blue cards, so I can do one of two things. We usually allow 3 minutes, so I can do 3 minutes and we'll get through, 7. or I can give everybody just a couple minutes and probably get through all of them. So does someone from Pivot want to tell me what you'd prefer?
Sure. Thank you very much, President Close. I have about a 10-minute presentation or so, and then families have various speeches they want to give, and you just cut us off when you need to. We have a little order that they had talked about going in, so if you don't mind them kind of deciding who's coming down, if that works for you.
That does work, as long as when they come down, just state your name, your full name, and also it kind of queue up so that we move through it pretty quickly. So you can go ahead and give your presentation, and then we'll have 20 minutes of comment from your students or family members. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You going first?
I was just going to say good evening. I was going to introduce Executive Director Jana Gaskill from Pivot Charter. They have a video and also a PowerPoint prior to the public hearing.
And before I put my charter hat on and start our presentation, when we first brought the charter to you, we were very excited to be bringing this to Santa Rosa City because we've been here for 7 years. After seeing what your community and you all as the leadership of this school district and Superintendent Kitamura and the staff have done these last couple of weeks, we're not just excited, it's an honor. I've worked for a lot of school districts, good school districts. They couldn't have pulled off what you guys pulled off. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It was amazing watching you guys do this. So since I had the microphone, I just wanted to let you know and congratulate you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, charter hat, sorry. Thank you.
Before you get started, I just want to clarify. What President Close said was you do your 10-minute presentation, and it's 20 minutes for the public comments. So I just want to be sure we were clear with that.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Jim Lewis. I'm the producer as chairman of the board of directors, and also I'm the founder of Pivot. So I've been with Pivot since August of 2008. Pivot is special because we give kids an opportunity to achieve their dreams where they
The internet connection is...
Let's go ahead and take about a 2-minute break so you can figure out what you want to do with that, and we'll come back, okay?
Yes.
You're
We're going to take a break. I think I'm out.
You have it already?
I don't need to stay here. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
What did we do before the internet?
Yeah, we did this.
We did this.
My name is Jim Lewis. I'm the producer as chairman of the board of directors, and also I'm the founder of Pivot. So I've been with Pivot since August of 2008. Pivot is special because we give kids an opportunity to achieve their dreams where they wouldn't have otherwise had it. With a faculty of teachers who really, truly cares about them, can invest in them and give them the quality time they deserve.
It's amazing to see a student who hasn't felt success in an academic arena all of a sudden actually accomplish something academically. And there is just nothing like it anywhere. And it happens every single day, all day long at Pivot.
And our school is really focused on those students who, whether they needed alternative learning, the traditional school system wasn't working for them, they were bullied, they had family issues, health issues. In the traditional system, those students would fall through the cracks. The name of our school, Pivot Charter School, really means we are pivoting the future of these young people, giving them a chance to get a high school diploma so they can move on to whatever it is that will help them have success in life.
The students at Pivot are about as unique as every star in the sky. They all are coming to us for different reasons, and the one thing that sort of is their commonality that binds them together as a team is that there was something not working for them in a traditional school setting. And that's it. Other than that, they're all coming to us for different reasons, and we've got it all here. You know, there are, in every educator's lives, these circumstances where you go, gosh, I can't save that student. I don't know what to do for them. That doesn't happen at Pivot. We always find a way.
I volunteer as a board member for Pivot because I believe we all have to come together to give everyone an education. Education is key to success. My volunteering and the commitment I give, it is time away from my work and time away from my family, but I feel so good about it because I see one at a time these students who probably weren't going very far at all, if not in a bad direction, have a chance to pivot their life, find success. And it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Pivot's a great investment because we're financially solid. Our blended learning model has proven track record for success. Our teachers and our staff care deeply. They're passionate. They're committed, professional people. And our board provides solid leadership, solid strength for the school to succeed.
We are a free public school doing things a little bit differently for the students who need different. We are an option. One system can no longer meet all of the needs of all of the kids. Traditional schools meet a lot of needs of a lot of children, and we meet the needs of a lot of other children.
Thank you so much, President Close, board members, Superintendent Kitamura, and staff. Just quickly, for those of you who are here in support of the charter schools, since this is a public hearing, could you just raise your hand? I love you, thank you. I'm going to try to summarize who we are and tell you a little bit about our program in 10 minutes or less, but I'm hoping that at the end you will have lots and lots of questions. I sent you the data summary report because I know a 400-page binder is not something that you have time to look through, so Dr. Guzman had asked that I pull out some important data for you all. We have copies here if you would like copies of that, so I'm hoping you ask lots of questions about who we are. In 10 minutes it will be hard to tell you who we are. I really wish I could spend the entire evening on just this slide because this is about our kids and this is why we're here. And to summarize what this slide tells you about our students is that we are here not to compete with your great district. We're a small little school. We have to stay small in order to do what we do. And we're there to catch the kids that are slipping through the cracks for whatever personal reasons of their own and help literally pivot their attitude and their motivation and their academics and then send them back or send them on. And again, we've capped our enrollment. We're not going to continue to grow because it would defeat our purpose and our mission if we got to be a big school. We're here for these kids and they really need us, whether it's for a very short time or until they graduate. But most of them use Pivot for a short time, for the most part, and I'll show you some of the statistics on that. We're kind of in a unique position coming to you with this. It's not like it's an initial charter that's never existed. We've been here for 7 years. And obviously, based on the data, 43% of our kids, and that's varied between 35 to 50% over the years, but right now 43% of our kids are Santa Rosa City School District students. And that's important because while Shasta Anderson, the lawsuit, brought us to this point, I honestly think it's a very good thing because we are here in your backyard and we have been working with your schools for 7 years. So I think it's a good thing. And as I mentioned, we're really excited to be bringing you this charter. Just a brief slide showing you sort of our demographics of our student population. 44%, it's gone down, I think, because of the economy of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. We're up to 18% special ed. That number has actually gone up since I did this slide. Students who qualify legally for an IEP, not just 504s. We're at about 7.5%, 7.2% right now for English language learners. The reason why that one's a little bit lower is because we're mostly high school students. We're like 75 to 80% high school students, and in a lot of cases, students are reclassified by the time they get to the high school level. And so that's why that number has been pretty much static, except for that one year, which I think was a data entry issue in 13-14, but it's been pretty static over the years because of that, because we've always continuously served the majority of high school students. And our foster and homeless students, I mean, just like in the district, a lot of times families are a little bit nervous to self-report that. And that number has unfortunately gone up the last couple of weeks, just like it has in your district too. This slide basically tells you exactly what I just got done telling you. We pivot kids and send them back. Between 70 and 75% of our students, and even more over past years, we have new students. It's because kids leave and go back, and then we get a new group of students to come where we can work on their lives and help pivot things around. And that's just the data that sort of proves what we're talking about. If we're meeting our mission of pivoting kids, that will always be roughly about the same every year. As I mentioned earlier, we are primarily 80% high school students, anywhere between 75 to 85 over the years. It's fluctuated. I have opinions about why I think that is, but we're an alternative. And a lot of times families don't seek an alternative until the students are in the high school years and they're kind of going, whoa, something's still not working at high school level and we got to, get a high school diploma. Or frankly, there's probably a handful of students in the audience right now who would say, yeah, you know what? The summer after my sophomore year, that light bulb went off, and I realized I hadn't really been, applying myself, but now I have to do some catch-up. Or, yeah, I want to go on to college now, but I need some help doing it. I need some more one-on-one attention. And so that's my belief as to why the kids come to us, mostly in their high school years. So our program, please, I implore you, please, if you haven't already, come visit our little school site. We did open a week after the fires. We knew we wouldn't have many students, but we were safe, the facility was safe, and we wanted students to have a warm, loving, caring place to go to and just to get out of the house, somewhere, just a safe zone for them. So we opened up about a week after the fires. But what you would see if you were to visit, and I would love for you to come visit, is it's a unique program. We're using an online curriculum not because we want to be a big virtual school. There's a bunch of those out there. That's not our goal. We're using an online curriculum so that we can individualize every piece of the child's education. The teachers have a caseload of 25 to 30 kids, and their job is to get inside their heads and their hearts and work with their families to figure out what that one kid needs to be successful. And so sometimes kids are working on one class, some kids for 1 month, some are working on 3, some are working on the full high school load of 6 at a time. It all depends on the kid. It all depends on what they can handle, where their interests lie, and how many credits they need to make up, how many AP classes they're taking. But basically, we're using that online curriculum because it's the only way that every single student could be doing something completely different within our school. And I just want to make sure that the board understands that our intention is not to be a big virtual school. If you come to our resource center, the kids are generally on site from 9 a.m. until noon. That's when the majority of them are there, 5 days a week, or 3 days a week, or 2 days a week, or 1 day a week, in the afternoons from 12:30 to 3 p.m. And basically, it's too hard to describe, but there's a zillion things going on at our resource center at once. The kids are doing clubs and electives and playing music, and they're getting tutoring, and they're having writing classes and math workshops. They're getting math tutors. They're going out on field trips. They're doing community service field trips. They're focusing on project-based in our project-based hands-on room. There's a gazillion things going on, and we can do it for all students at all grade levels simply because the instructional delivery model is our laptops, is our curriculum online, and the teachers can focus 100% on the students and tutoring them and helping them and doing fun things rather than designing lesson plans and backwards mapping. They're focused on what they like to do best with kids, and that's to support them. Special education, we're really proud of our special education program. We are a member, we are an LEA, just like a district, with the El Dorado Charter SELPA. That means that basically, unlike some charter arrangements with their authorizers, where you all as a district have to provide services for the charter school, by default, that's what the law says. That is not the case with us. We are our own district for purposes of special ed. We have our own funding. We provide all the services. We're 100% responsible. You are not liable, fiscally responsible in any way, and you are legally off the hook for any kind of due process fair hearing or anything that comes down the pike. And that's important to us because it's our people doing it, and it should be our responsibility. And we are required to take, but it's never been any differently, even before we were an LEA, we take all students who walk in, regardless of disability or services, 100%. There is no exception to that rule. I have a special ed background. In 33 years, knock on wood, I've never had a due process or a fair hearing that I didn't initiate to try to get a parent to do the right thing. I'd like to keep that record going. But really, our special ed program, our general ed program, where teachers are working one-on-one and in small group and hands-on and tutoring and pulling them out, and it's all small focused, our general ed program is really like a traditional special ed program. Hence our 17.5% special ed, I think, numbers there, because our whole program is really geared towards all kids getting individual attention. Field trips, every other week at least, if not more. We do them a lot. We want to get them off the computers. They travel around, they do community service, they go to all different kinds of places. Some are academic, some are just fun, pumpkin patches. It's important that they get out there and they socialize together and they go places maybe that they haven't been before. It's an important part of our program. As are our clubs and our Fun Fridays. Like I said, there is a lot going on our campus at any given time. We have barbecues all the time and the food drive, and obviously we actually have all of our network of pivots that have been getting donations for all the families, and right now we have an entire classroom filled with things that we want to give out to families in need, and the kids have been helping us work on that as well. And there's just, and our prom. 2 years ago, Pivot North Bay, first pivot to do it. We have it a prom. Our first one was in the Round Barn, and it was a lot of fun. And we actually last year had Pivot North Valley come down from Chico and join the Pivot North Bay students at the prom. It was fun. I mention occasionally the other pivots. We have this network because we need to keep our schools small, among other reasons. But from a fiscal standpoint, that's what we do. We have shared superintendent, shared director of special ed, shared registrar, shared chief business officer. Our legal costs, they're shared so that we can keep all of our schools small. And I can cap the enrollment at Pivot North Bay and still be able to provide an amazing, excellent, compliant program. A 450-student school, no less 135-student school, would struggle to be able to do it well if we couldn't have this all come together. And they work together very, very well despite being around the state. Just a little FAQ. I think I included most of these points in your data summary report that I believe you sent out, Dr. Guzman? Okay. Okay, and we have a hard copy if you want it. But one of the most important things to me on this slide, other than the fact that we really do try to take care of our employees as well, is our student-to-teacher ratio. When the kids are on campus, there might be 50 kids and 5 teachers walking around, helping the kids, looking over their shoulder, taking them and doing small group instruction. Again, that's part of who we are, and if we grow too big, we're not going to be able to do that. It's what makes us special, I think, and that's the most important point on that slide. Oh, this came from the PDF, sorry. I don't know if your versions have the numbers on it, but this one It did, the original one. But basically what you're showing here is that very, very large blue and that red are salaries. So it's about 68% are salaries and benefits for both classified and credentialed. The little green above the red, 5.2, is our curriculum and instructional costs. It's like your textbooks, basically. So it's about 5.2% of our budget. 8.5 goes towards rent. 8.3%, the turquoise little spot above the purple, is for professional development and field trips and instructional consultants. And the sort of orangey brown part is about 9.7, 10%, and that's like dues and memberships. We know what it means to be public agents. We're all coming from public districts, and we do like to be good stewards of public dollars. Our board members, 2 former superintendents, a public finance expert, a UCR staff person, and an entrepreneur, and 2 city managers. They are public agents by choice, by career. We're not like a fairly traditional charter school where there's moms and teachers on the board. There is representation from every single community. As a matter of fact, from North Bay, there are 3 representatives. There's only 1 for the other smaller regions. They know what it takes to run a solid public agency. They've had our backs every step of the way, particularly when things were tight financially. They made very good fiscal sound decisions for our staff and our students. And I wouldn't be able to do my job without them. They're a very committed group. Finally, our authorizers. We have great relationships with our authorizers. We hope that we will continue that trend with you all in the future. We're very independent in the sense that there's not a lot you have to do for us except the legal mandates, which means that our state reporting has to flow through you per the education code. For that exchange for oversight and your once-a-year visits and communication, we give you up to 1% of our revenues. But in the past, with all of our districts, because we know sometimes that doesn't always cover the costs of very bright people who have to take on things, we have an extra additional 2% in our budget for our authorizers. And depending on the year and our discussions, that does go to the authorizer because we don't want to take away from your district. If anything, we want to work in partnership, which is why that last bullet there is one of the things we do for all of our authorizers. And I talked to Mr. Mazzara about this last year. We will allow you to refer up to 10 students, and we can talk about that number since you're such a large district, and serve them. If your wonderful teachers and counselors come across a student that you think Pivot would be good for, and you, the district staff, make that referral, as opposed to the mom or the dad finding us, on the internet or how they find us, we let you keep the ADA, and we will serve that student, minus direct costs, because otherwise it would be a gift to public funds if we didn't, which is about 1/25 of a teacher's salary. We do that because we really do want to have something to bring to the table for you in asking you to authorize a charter. We know there has to be some good things that we can bring you, and that's one of the things that has worked with our prior authorizers. The same thing goes for our MOU in giving you first right of refusal before we go out for contracts to allow, I shouldn't say transportation because I know that's an issue, but with one of our authorizers, they had extra bus drivers sitting around during the day and they had to pay them. And so we rented their buses and their bus drivers for our field trips when they weren't on their schedule. Things like that we work with our authorizers on very closely and give the district first right of refusal. Questions, please. Would you like hard copies of that report since the internet's not going out, the data summary report? Oh, okay. So, sorry, I didn't know. Sorry, I know you said that. So.
Well, this is just a public hearing, so we just listen.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and start with your student and family comments, and we'll do 2 minutes each. We should be able to get through all of them in just a little over 20 minutes, okay?
Okay.
So if you want to line up, and there's one up there, okay? And make sure to start with your name, please.
Hello. My name is Heather McGuire. I am an educational coordinator at Pivot. I just wanted to tell you a little bit of a story about the past 2.5 weeks of my life and how Pivot was involved. At 1:30 in the morning on that lovely Monday, my husband and I were ushered out of our house by firemen and took nothing. I said goodbye to my house. I left my wedding rings. I left my glasses. We took our dog. I wasn't even wearing sensible footwear. But that's not a strange story to hear in this county anymore, unfortunately. What is important to hear is 30 minutes later, as I sat in a church parking lot watching the flames come over the hill towards my house, I received a text message from a high school student at 2 in the morning as she was fleeing her home in Coffey Park. She texted, "Heather, are you okay? We're evacuating, and I wanted to check on you." I don't know how many of you work with teenagers. Many of you, I'm sure, all know teenagers, but that says a lot about the relationships that I form with my students and the relationships that all of us form with our students. She was checking on me as she was running from Coffey Park, and her cat was running away from her, and she couldn't catch her cat. She was texting me. 30 minutes later, another student who's here today also texted me, "Heather, are you okay? We're evacuating." The fact that I had 2 children checking on me in a time when they were in their own crisis speaks volumes about who we are as a family and as a school. And thank you.
Thank you. Make sure if you could to kind of line up next so we can move through things quickly.
Good evening, board members, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and the Santa Rosa City School community. My name is Jordan Burns. Some of you may know me as the Vice President of the Santa Rosa Junior College Board of Trustees, but tonight I'm here as a fellow Pivot Charter School parent. Up until last year, my son suffered from low self-esteem, struggling emotionally at home, socially with his friends, and academically at school. What has changed? He found a school that catered to his strengths and helped him overcome his challenges. That school was Pivot Charter. I saw his turning point. Rather than struggling every morning to get out of bed and ready for a day he dreaded, he wakes up every morning excited to complete his classwork. The ease with which he is now able to move through the coursework at his own pace allows him to spend days either focusing on one specific topic or spreading his focus out among a few different topics. If he is struggling with a topic or needs more one-on-one help, he has the freedom and support to go into the Pivot Charter Resource Center and work in small groups, get direct help from a teacher, or simply interact socially at school. I'd add that even though my son tends to work a lot at home at his own pace, neither he nor I have ever felt he was alone. His teacher, Tim, has been so supportive of him and checks in with us at least weekly and sometimes daily. If my son or I ever have a question, we know that Tim is just a phone call or text message away. On top of all these great advantages that Pivot Charter extends to my son, he is also able to work part-time at our family business and still complete assignments in the evening. I could go on and on about the wonderful advantages that Pivot Charter has been able to offer my son, but I'd like to end by telling you briefly about my own experience in high school. I also struggled in the traditional school system. In my junior year, I chose to attend Laguna High School, a continuation high school in Sebastopol. I was hesitant to attend because I had heard nothing but horrible things about the school. If I had followed the advice of many of the people who saw a non-traditional continuation school as a bad school, then I'm sure that I would never have graduated from high school, let alone college. But Laguna was anything but bad. It was precisely the support and rock I needed. Now I see Pivot as the support and rock for so many other students who don't fit into the traditional school mode. There's a place for schools like Pivot, and I hope that all of you see that the place is right here in Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay.
My name is Rachel Markwart, and I'm also a parent of a student from Pivot. Our story is really similar to the guy who just spoke, so I'm going to save you all the extra stuff. But my son was born with Larson syndrome, and he has medical issues, and it's a struggle for him to go to school with regular traditional rules and education plan. So we were really looking forward to high school and really nervous about where to send him. There's a lot of issues like accessibility, just getting up here to come talk to you guys today. I had to help him upstairs, and it's like really difficult at most of the high schools in this county to get to and from class, and you have 6 classes in a day, and for him he has 42% lung capacity, and it's hard for him to get around. So Pivot is really awesome because it's very small and it's family oriented, and we felt nothing but safe and comfortable there, and I hope you guys keep it going.
Thank you.
Renee Eager. Thank you, board members, for this opportunity to speak to you regarding the issue of Pivot Charter before you this evening. My name is Renee Lovato Eager, and I'm a Sonoma County resident of Petaluma. I'm fortunate to have my son, an 8th grader, starting his 2nd year at Pivot. I hope that my words this evening are not only true to my experience, but resonate for the many other students' success stories of others who could not be here. Pivot Charter was the 6th school enrollment we tried since kindergarten graduation, including a brief attempt at homeschooling, in a diligent search to meet the unique individualized learning style of my son. I cannot express the relief and happiness I felt a few weeks back when, after the back-to-school orientation, my son told me on a Sunday evening that he couldn't wait to get back to school. He hasn't been excited for school or felt confident in his abilities for what seemed like an eternity. And this is what Pivot does every single day. I'd like to echo and reinforce the sentiment that Pivot offers a necessary and exceptional niche in providing for the varied learning needs of our youth. Just like siblings that are no more alike because of a shared gene pool, every student requires different and diverse teaching styles. Pivot Charter School North Bay provides choice and solutions to a unique set of varied learners that may not find success in other well-meaning learning environments. This was true for my son and is likely the case for many of Pivot's current and prior students. In considering and accepting of Pivot's charter in Santa Rosa City School District, there is the opportunity to partner with a proven and successful organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Leah Bordeaux and I'm a student at Pivot Charter. Before I went to Pivot, trying new things was a challenge I almost never faced. For example, if Jenny had asked me to speak in front of such a vast crowd 3 years ago, I probably would have shaken my head and quietly declined. The mere idea of breaking out of my comfort zone seemed implausible, but here I am today, thanks to the love and support of Pivot. And anyway, so thank you so much for charting my school.
One second. Okay, my name is Cameron West, and I am the president of the Video Arts Club at Pivot Charter School. I came from the Art Quest program over at Santa Rosa High School, which is a fabulous program, but it didn't work for me. I have ADHD, and I have a really hard time sitting through 7 hours of classes. I ended up failing many of my classes at Santa Rosa High, and I made the decision to abandon all of my friends and video creating resources to come learn at Pivot. I started at the beginning of this year, and the shorter, more accelerated learning days made it so that I am maintaining all A's and B's on my progress reports. I feel like I'm in control of my own education, and the more flexible schedule allows me to do things such as run the Video Arts Club, which I founded earlier this year. The amount of support I got from the staff alone when I mentioned wanting to start my club was phenomenal. I wrote down some basic ideas on an index card and gave it to one of the teachers who are always present in case we need help with anything, and that was it. A few days later, I had not only one but 2 teachers who wanted to dedicate their own time to helping me make my dream a reality. My club has already had 2 meetings, and we have 5 members who are already working on their first individual projects, which will each become finished short films by the end of the first semester. Pivot Charter School has been everything I hoped for and more, and I have no doubt that any other student who joins us will feel the same way. Once again, my name is Cameron West, and I sincerely hope that my school will be granted a charter through the Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa. Go. And my name is Marisol. We call Pivot our home school because it makes us feel safe and ready to learn.
Pivot is unique because there are people from different places and cultures. This makes me feel comfortable because I can be myself.
I enjoy being at Pivot because I'm able to work on my own. I enjoy this because it makes me understand what I'm learning. At my old school, I couldn't take in what I was learning because of the fast pace. Now I'm able to work at a pace that allows me to absorb what we are learning.
The teachers at Pivot are kind, patient, and understanding, which makes me feel less stressed about school. Pivot and my teachers have helped me get my work done comfortably and without stress. For example, my teachers, Julie and Jennifer, tell me I can text or call them when they are working or at home. This makes me happy knowing I can get their help whenever I need it.
Thank you for your time and have a good night.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Martino. I'm from Novato. I'm a proud father of a Pivot Charter School student. Lindsay is a straight A student at Novato High. She was working 7 hours a day, 3 hours of homework every day, throw 2 hours of volleyball practice in. She was a wreck in her sophomore year, week after week. We'd go away for a volleyball tournament. All of her team, they'd bring their books. It was too hard of a pace. To echo what others have said, Pivot saved Lindsay. She was able to regain control of her life. She was exhausted week to week at their traditional school. I don't want to appear selfish. We know that a lot of people have suffered losses in the recent weeks. And probably don't want to hear me brag about my daughter. She had to take a lab. She went to the College of Marin to get the biology. She had the highest grade in the class to get her lab. I guess Pivot doesn't offer the lab. So for people like Lindsay, who's a 4.0 plus student taking AP courses, there's just not enough hours in the day in the traditional model. So this alternative model worked for Lindsay. She came to her mother and I. We were reluctant to say, what do you mean you're going to drop out of high school and go to this alternative school? But we went to the meetings. We met the great people at Pivot. And now we're here tonight. And go Pivot Charter School. Lindsay's going to graduate this year. Where she's going to go, which university, I don't know. But she's on her way. Thank you.
Good evening. Is this on?
Hi, my name is Charlie. I'm a junior at Pivot. I struggled with mental illness my entire life, and success in traditional schools doesn't come as easily to me as people with traditional brains. And before I came to Pivot, I was really struggling. I was failing my classes, I was skipping school, but at Pivot, there's always resources to make sure that the way my brain has been unfortunately set up does not get in the way of my educational career. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Hanna. My son is a sophomore at Pivot Charter School. He is a very bright teen, but is easily distracted. His freshman year at Santa Rosa High proved to be very difficult. He liked most of the classes and most of the teachers, but was heavily distracted by the social dynamics and the large school environment. His grades suffered, and he ultimately failed several classes. This is not the fault of the school, but of my son's inability to function in a typical school setting. He needed a smaller school with fewer distractions to be successful. By enrolling in Pivot, he is able to focus on his schoolwork during the shorter in-school periods and fill in at home as needed. He is able to be responsible for his own work. At the same time, I can keep in contact with his educational coordinator and make sure he isn't falling behind. My son is very quickly catching up on all of the coursework that he missed last year and staying current on this year's curriculum. I don't know that Pivot would be ideal for everybody, but for my son, this is exactly what he needed. For my family's sake, and for the sake of the other families that are benefiting from this program, I'm really hoping that you will grant us the charter through the Santa Rosa School District. We really need it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie Cienega, and this is my daughter, Haley. My daughter, she suffers dyslexia, and in a regular school setting, she was not thriving. She was in 4th grade and had a 1st grade reading level. This was about this time last year where she finally got her IEP. We found Pivot, and I brought her to Pivot. And now flash forward to today, my daughter has a reading level of almost close to her current grade level, which is 5th grade. She can read subtitles on a TV. She could read chapter books, whereas before, this time last year, she could not. And I owe it all to Pivot. I was gonna go on more about, the academics and how amazing Pivot is, but I think we need to touch more on what kind of school this is, because this isn't just a regular school. This is a family. We're a family. All of us, students, parents, teachers, staff, everyone, we're a family. There's a quote. It says, "Family is not about blood, it's about who is willing to hold your hand when you need it the most." During the fires, we were evacuated. We did not lose our home, but we were evacuees. We were not allowed near our home for nearly a week, about 6.5 days to be exact. We had no clothes, we had nothing. Every single day, we got messages from my daughter's teacher and asking how we were, where we were, are we okay, if we need anything. That is what Pivot is. That is what we are about. We come together, we unite, and we're there for each other. And as the healing process begins, we're still continuing as a unit, as a family unit, together, Pivot. Please keep that in mind when you make your decision. We need this here in Santa Rosa. Thank you.
I have one more card here for Kristen. Is Kristen here? McNellis?
I'm Kristen McNeilis, and this is my daughter Audrey. She's in 2nd grade this year. She started off at Pivot in 1st grade, which was their first year in the elementary program. And we live in Petaluma. We're small business owners here in Santa Rosa, so we were having trouble getting her to and from school. That's how we sought out Pivot. What I'm most impressed with the online curriculum is that I get to sit down and do the homework with her so that we can discuss geography, and the curriculum is actually very difficult in some respects, and I get to explain and participate in her education. If she was in a traditional school, I wouldn't really know what was going on because we experienced that in transitional kindergarten and regular kindergarten. So we were very happy to find Pivot, and we, are able to, because she can go to school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to noon, she can participate in the family business with us. She sees our customers, she sees vendors, she goes to the bank with me. So she gets a variety of experiences outside of school that are going to help her as a business person going forward in the future. So I think that Pivot offers, quite a few different opportunities for all age ranges of children. It's a mixed grade level, so you have, I believe it's traditional or transitional kindergarten through 5th grade. So she's often exposed to higher level curriculum as well. Not that she needs to understand it now, but she's at least exposed to some of the terminology, the vocabulary, and even some of the math comprehension, which is above her. She's still getting exposure to it. So we're very pleased with Pivot. We think it should remain in Santa Rosa, and we really hope that you guys, vote for it to remain here with your group. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and adjourn the meeting. See you in a few weeks.